we are going to start laying out our web pages because right now our web pages are just stacked kind of right on top of each other. All of our content is just like blah in a line. We want to make it a little bit more dynamic and make it so stuff can sit next to each other or on top or to the side at an angle, whatever. Now, in order to do that, we're going to start with something that is very basic, but probably one of the most important things that you need to know about layout. And that is something that you should already have looked at, which is the box model. As you can see in your notes on page 23, it goes margin, border, padding, content. Margin, border, padding, content. Margin, border, padding, content. Make a song about it. Margin, border, padding, content. Margin, border, padding, content. Okay, that was a little much. I just spit all over my computer screen trying to beatbox. But that's okay. All right, so to give us an example here, I got a nice little image of a meme. If you have tacos, I will find them and I will eat them. And if you forgot to make an image, it's IMG for image, SRC for source, and then equals quotation marks your actual URL for your image. And I set the width of the image to 400. Now I put it inside of a div to divide it from the rest, and I gave that div a class name called box model. So up here in the style part of the document, I'm calling out the class by period box model, and I gave it some qualities here. One of them is commented out right now, and I'll put that back in a little bit here just to show you what it does. So, margin, border, padding, content. Let's take a look at it. Right now the margin is set to 20 pixels. So keep in mind from before that that is the outer edge of everything. So if I change this to 60, notice it puts a thicker gap between the outside of our viewer here and the actual border. So I'm going to take that back to 10. Now I only have a 10 pixel gap around the outside edge and my border. Okay, so what's next is the border. So the border, I can actually change the thickness of that. It's not a default size. So I can make that 30 pixels thick or 60 or 80. So I can kind of add a little bit of dynamic aspects to the website just by changing the border. Already it looks a little better than just basic. It's still kind of childish and blocky looking, but you get the point. So I'll change that back to 30. So we went margin, border. Keep in mind with border, you can also change it. Qualities here we have, you can make it dashed if you want. Oh, I don't know what that says. Dashed. Change the color. But solid is best for this, I think. So padding is the next one in. So notice right now between the border and the image there's a gap, and that is because I set the padding to 30 pixels. If I set it to 0, notice that the image sets right against the border. And there's a little gap down here. It shouldn't be. That's just the fault of this program right here. So I'm going to add 60. So now notice I have a larger gap between the picture and the border. And then obviously the content is the picture. So margin, border, padding, content. And I could change all of those aspects. Now I can get, thanks to HTML and CSS, even more specific. Let's say I don't want all of my margins to be the same. Well, check this out. I can set the margin of the top to 10 pixels, but the margin on the left, I can set that to 60 pixels. Check that out. I can move this container, this div right here around the page. Now it's only 10 pixels up here and 60 over here. Or I can say margin bottom or margin right. So I can get specific. Remember, there's no spaces, though. You have to put a dash. I can do the same thing with the border. I can say that that border is only the top. So I can just add a nice little line up there. Now the border is still there, but you just can't see it. Just like the margin and padding are there, just because they don't have a color to them doesn't mean they're not there. And with the border, I can do the same thing. I can make border left. So let's say I want to add border left, but I only want that one to be 10 pixels, and I want to make that the same color. Oops, forgot my solid. Coding hat. So there you go. Now we got a little different border on the sides. So pretty cool. And you can do the same thing with padding. You can get specific. I'm not going to for time's sake. So I'm going to take those out and get back to normal here. I guess not normal, just symmetrical. Symmetrical is boring, but for this example here, we want as pretty straightforward as possible. So there's one thing that I have commented out, and it's the width. And the reason I want to show you this is check out what's happening right now. When I give a margin of 10 pixels, it puts 10 pixels all the way around here. And so it automatically sets my border 10 pixels from the left and the right, which you might not always want. What if you only want this whole thing to take up like half the screen or 3/4 of the screen? So what we can do is we can set the actual width of this whole container. So I'm going to uncomment it here. And I'm going to set this to 200 pixels. So look what it has done. It has changed that container to only take up 200 pixels worth. Now the problem is that my image is too big now. So I would have to go change the width of my image to account for this. So pretty cool. So now you can almost imagine me adding another item over here and changing its properties, its margin, border, padding, content, and we would be able to have two distinct things sitting side by side. So pretty cool. Now if we take that width out again, it will automatically just go to the entire width of the viewport of whoever is visiting our webpage. All right, have fun with this one.